Hey guys, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to my recap of season 1, episode 9 of Love Is. So, before we jump into it, let me just say that this episode mentally drained me. I'm so drained. At one point, I literally was like, let's just throw the whole show away. I'm over it. I'm done. Your series ridiculous. I just want to throw the whole show away. But clearly we can't do that, but I just needed to get that out. I feel a little better now that I've said it. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the recap. So the show begins with Angela coming in, and we get to see Angela, if you remember from the previous episode, Angela has actually, going to get this an amazing show, getting to be co-creator of this show. So she comes in and she's dressed to the nines, suit, she's got her hair down, she looks great. So of course, she walks in, of course everybody stops and pauses because they aren't used to seeing her dressed like that. And then of course Norman comes in. Norman has a suit on as well, and so Norman basically explains where they've been, what has happened, what they're doing, that they're both co-creators of this new show. Then Norman kind of goes in to tell the team that there's only 2 more episodes of Marvin, so hopefully they'll pick the show back up, so then they will have a job. But clearly he and Angela are gonna have a job, so of course he made a little joke about that. And so that was pretty much that. And then Nuri goes home and she's ecstatic. She's excited to talk to Yasir. And what we find out is that since Angela is now moving on to this new show as the co-creator, then Nuri finally gets her first script, which is what she wanted. So it's super exciting. She's excited. And I will say Yasir genuinely seemed to be excited for and happy for. So in that respect, I was like, cool. Because at first I was like, is he going to kind of feel some kind of way? Because as we are learning that he's a big man, baby. But he seemed genuinely happy for it. Of course, he's like, let's celebrate. We should celebrate. And of course, she's like, well, I only have 2 days to write the script. So they're chatting a little bit about it, talking about it. And then he shows her his prayer box. And so when he opens the prayer box, he pulls out a prayer that says, that he hopes that Nuri gets her first script this year. And then, and of course, she's super, emotional about it. She's excited about it. And I'm not gonna lie, I kind of had a tinge of, I like Yasir again. Because that was really sweet. I think it's always amazing if you're in a relationship with somebody, you want your man to pray for you and to want you to have great things. So I really like that part. That part made me happy about this episode. So then they're kind of celebrating, I couldn't tell if they were drinking beer or wine or whatever, but they're kind of doing that. And so she's like, I've got to work, and then of course he can go back to working on his script. And she invites him to come to the night of the show or whatever. And in Yasir's man baby fashion, of course, he's like, no, it's your night. And I'm beginning to think he just wants people to beg him to do stuff. Every time somebody offers him something or tries to do something nice for him, he's always like, no. And he wants people to beg. So that's kind of annoying to me. So that's kind of where I began to throw the whole show away, because I'm annoyed with him now. So, of course, eventually he's like, okay, I'll come. So they're supposed to be working on the script. But anyway, basically, they keep doing the horizontal polka. She's like, I've got to go. I've got to work on this script. So she finally decides that she needs to leave the house. And so he asks her to call him when she makes it back to work, to the studio. So Nuri gets there, and of course her juices are flowing. She only has 2 days to get this script ready. So she's working, she's going, and you go back and see Yasir, he's calling her or paging her, and she's not answering. So I don't know exactly what time, but eventually she gets complete with the script. She comes home, he's asleep in bed. She gets in the bed and, it's just tells him that she finished the script, and they fall asleep. So when she wakes up that morning, he's not in the bed. So she gets up and he's in the room. Let's be clear, the writing room that she let him have to get his work done so he can get his script ready. Because one of the things that she told him is that on the night of the show, she wants him to bring his best script. So she's going to actually give it to Norman and I think some other people on the show. So she's consistently helping him. So she goes in there in the morning. Of course, she's excited. She's finished her script. She's happy. They're supposed to be in love. And he has an attitude. And, she's kind of looking at him basically why are you mad? What are you upset about? And of course he explains he's upset because she didn't call him, and she basically tells him that, I was working, I was just, busy, didn't even look at my pager. And I mean, he's like big mad, like he's like on 25,000 levels mad. And I'm like, seriously, dude? And in my head I'm thinking, well, if you actually had a job and you were writing a script, then you maybe would understand why she wasn't paying attention, because this is her big break. This is her first script. She only has 2 days to get it together. So yeah, maybe she didn't have time to look at her pager and call you. Again, this is where I decided, like, let's throw the whole show away. So he has an attitude, and she apologized, which I wouldn't have apologized, because at this point I'm over him. But she apologized, and he's still like angry, and he's saying, he says that she could have gotten raped or murdered. He said friends raped or murdered, which I get that too. But this level of anger he was at, because she literally has her big break. She was busy. She's trying to get the script together. Like, he shouldn't have been that mad. So she leaves the room, and she didn't really say much. And then she like makes faces outside the room, which in my head I'm like, you should have done that in there with him. Like, that's where you should have been, should have put your anger. And anyway, so she goes and she puts on something, fancy, or tries to look nice or whatever, for him, like puts on like a little nighty thing. And of course, first he's still being mad. Then eventually they make up. She leaves and goes to work, because this is the big table read. This is the big deal. Table read goes great, because she wants the table read to go great, because this is her first script. The table read goes great. They love it. She comes home. She's excited. Everything went great in that respect. And so then at some point, Yasir goes out and he's hanging out with Sean. Sean is the best friend. And he's kind of just having a woe is me moment, because he finds out at the bookstore that his hours are being cut. So I think initially he was working 30 hours. So the bookstore said, like, the internet's killing them. So they're going to cut him down to 15 hours. So of course he's upset, because clearly, I mean, he's not making much money anyway. And now you're going to cut to 15 hours. So he goes out with Sean to have his major woe is me moment. And he's just like, well, basically, I should just have a period now, because, like, I'm cooking her food and, doing everything for her. I'm living with her. I'm cooking her food, whatever. And, so he's having a moment. Oh, because the guy at the bookstore had also told him that he should just get his girlfriend knocked up. Then he could be a stay-at-home dad. So clearly that rubbed him the wrong way, but that was kind of funny, right? So basically, Sean tells him, like, Sean is like, man up. Go to you should go to her table reading. She invited you. Take your script. Sean, of course, always has a joke. It's like, put on your one suit you got and just go, to the event or whatever. Because, he's like wallowing, and, he had cooked her dinner the night she came home from table read, but she was too tired. So he's just really, again, being a big man baby, having a woe is me moment. And Sean's basically like, just man up and go. And Sean even offered to let him take his car. So Yasir decides to man up, goes home, puts on this one little fancy suit, that linen suit. Y'all know it. Y'all have saw it before. And then he goes to the studio. So he gets to the studio and gets to the lot. The guy asks for his ID. And then it's like, he just goes in with the attitude. Like, you're coming on the set of, big shows or whatever. And so he's mad the guy's asking for his ID, which I thought was ridiculous. And he's not on the list. So, Mr. Attitude, he's all upset. And he's like, I should be on the list. And then he's saying, well, maybe because I guess his license has whatever his name was before he changed it over to Yasir. And so at some point he says, I'm the writer of tonight's episode's boyfriend. Well, Will is out there. And if you remember, Will was a little young guy who she was kind of just having a little fling with, that was like the little assistant that got the sandwiches. And so Will looks at him and says, oh, so you're the boyfriend. And Yasir is like, oh, yeah, you're the one that gets the sandwiches. Now, here's my thing. You're stuck at the gate. You can't get in. Don't be rude and disrespectful to this man who could possibly help you get in. But Will, being the bigger man, tells the little security guard guy that he's okay and let him in. And let me just say that Will may be young, but he's very mature, because I wouldn't have said nothing, because Yasir didn't have to throw up that he's the one that gets sandwiches. Like, it was just pointless and it was ridiculous. And again, why I say Yasir is just a big man baby. I want to throw, and now we don't necessarily throw the whole show away, but just throw Yasir away. Like, we could just throw him away and replace him with somebody else. I would be okay, because that's really how I feel right now. So Anywho, Yasir, they let him through, and the guy tells him that he has to park in like a different lot. So then he goes, he's got his script in his hand. He walks up, so there's like another security guard for him to actually get into the set to actually see the show. And the guy asks his name. Of course, his name is not on the list, and the guy calls him son. And again, angry man baby Yasir goes to like 1,000 and gets mad, and tries to say who he is or whatever. So this one on the inside, Nuri's having her moment. This is her first script. She's up there with Norman, my boo, of course. And so she's up there with him, and he's basically telling her, like, soak this all in. You only get your first night once. Like, she, really, like, just enjoy this moment, because this is going to be your first, hopefully the first mini scripts, but this is the one that you should enjoy because it's your first one. Well, then, of course, somebody comes in and basically says that Yasir is out there acting a fool, which they didn't say that, but that's basically what the code was. So Norman looks at her and is basically like, he can tell something's going on. He's like, I don't want any mess on my set. And she was like, I'll handle it. Well, in the midst of her getting ready to go outside, they're introducing the characters, and they call her name as, the one of the writers, and to come on stage. And of course she doesn't go because she's got to go outside with the man baby, which is super annoying in itself, because I'm like, this is your moment, but you've got to go outside for this man. So again, I'm upset. She goes outside, and Yasir just has an attitude, and she's just like, calm down, and then the guy, she's like, it's my boyfriend, and he was like, well, I'm not on the list. And then Yasir's like going off, how many promises are you gonna break? And when he's just going on, and I'm like, seriously, dude? And even Nuri's like, you're really gonna do this on my night? This is her night. Like, this is such a big break for her. Anyone in that industry, this is such a big deal for her. And so for him to make it about him, like, I literally, if he would have been in my face, I could have strangled him. I wanted to strangle him. I wanted to throw the whole show away at this point because I was so annoyed. But of course he gets upset, and then he storms off. And of course, Nuri's upset, so she tries to go back in. She can't get back in because the show has started, and she has to wait till they say cut. So she missed her big moment. She missed part of the taping of her first show, dealing with Mr. Jerkface. So yeah, I was annoyed. So of course she finally gets back in, and then her and Norman have a conversation. And Norman, which I thought was really awesome, is that because Norman can have his little moments and his quirks, and he can kind of be a little aggressive, kind of mean or whatever, but he was really trying to have, like he said, I'm talking to you as a mentor, like really trying to explain to her like how she's messing up. Like, this was her night, and she, she's missing things dealing with this guy. And of course everybody knows business, so he's saying, you're dating this guy who doesn't have a job. He's basically saying maybe this guy's using you. Just really trying to explain to her that, like, this is your moment, and you're letting this guy take you away from it. And in the midst of him, like, trying to get her together and tell her, she's literally pitching Yasir to him, and Norman's like, seriously, like, I'm supposed to be having a conversation with you, and you're pitching your boyfriend to me. And so, he kind of gets a little frustrated, but I think, at the end of the day, he gets it. So he finally gets up, and he's just like, basically like, we have fun at work, but I need you to be here, be present. And she says, okay, and she apologized. And then before he walks out, he's like, bring me his script, because now, I'm curious or whatever. And she says, it's good. And he's like, basically, it better be. If not, I'm really going to lose a lot of respect for you. So she goes home, and Yasir, still like has an attitude, and he's angry and upset with her. And I will say that Nuri at this point did kind of show a little backbone, and was basically like saying to him, like, you ruined my night. Like, this was major to me, and he, of course, is still talking about because she broke promises or she didn't call and whatever. And it's just like, when, like, he was really annoying to me. And like, he doesn't even have the mentality to understand or respect that you ruined her night. Like, he was still making everything about him. And so then, of course, Nuri says, maybe we need a break. And he just says, wow. And I'm like, A, that's all you got. And B, like, do you not understand, everything she's done for you? And I don't think, she didn't say it in so many words, but basically that's what she was saying. Is like, I've let you in, I've let you be here, and this is how you act or whatever. And so it didn't end in any way, the conversation or whatever. It was just like, whatever. I think she was just probably drained too, because this is her night, and she had to deal with him and all of that. So somewhere in the middle of the night, they're laying in the bed, and he rolls over to apologize to her and kind of starts touching her, and she literally like jumps out of the bed and starts running and goes into like a corner and is like freaked out. And if you were, I don't know how much you paid, but that scene, at first I was thinking like, at first I thought it was somebody else in the house. Was it not him? Like, it was really weird for a minute. I couldn't really figure out what was going on. And I'm sorry if you guys see that blink, my little light is blinking. But if I'm being for real, I don't want to record this video over again, so I hope it's not too annoying. But anyway, I'm almost done, so just act like hopefully you won't see the light. But sorry. So anyway, but this is what happens when you make a makeshift studio, right? But anyway, so she's in the corner and she's, you know, crying and she's upset, and then he finally gets there to her and he kind of just holds her and she's crying. He's really having a moment. And so finally, I think when she calms down, they have kind of an honest conversation, and she tells him that she had been molested, and that was her stepfather. It started when she was 9 until she was 12, and you know, she's bawling and kind of apologizing to him too, because she got so freaked out. And of course, he's based, you don't have to apologize. And then he tells her that we're not as different as you think, and then they kind of just sit there and have a moment. And then it goes back to the older couple, and they both kind of have this silent and kind of talking, and you know, and basically what she says is that although with everything else that they're going through and who knows what's going on with the relationship, at that moment, at that night, they realized that they could be honest with each other and truthful with each other. And for her, at that moment, that's what was important, and that they would figure everything else out later. And so, and of course, as you all know, the show always kind of represents, and that's how the show ended. So, I can't breathe. I feel like I was just like going on and on. I'll be totally honest. I have no idea how I really feel about this show. Like I said, the show, like I was like drained. It was emotional. You know, at one point you're here. Like, it's just a lot going on, which I think at some point that's just to the credit that it's a good show, because you feel some kind of way, you get upset, you get angry. I mean, I'm sure this is what they wanted, because what they want you to see is that this is kind of love, and this is love in a package, that love just really isn't pretty. You know, even at one of the scenes, you know, Nuri's like, I just don't think love should be hard. But then you see that clearly it is, and they have the issues, but they're still together. So I don't know how I feel about the show. I wonder what you guys are thinking, what you're feeling. Are you going to hang in there with the show? I don't know. It's just, so my coworker, her and I were talking about the show at work. And she asked me a question and I couldn't answer it. So I'm going to ask you guys to see if anybody has an answer. But she said, at what point is there a line? She's like, you know, Nuri is putting up with a lot of stuff from him, you know, no job, nowhere to live, baby mama drama, you know, and all this stuff in there. Like, at what point would you draw the line and say, okay, that's it? And honestly, I don't know that I could answer it. I said, you know, I think in my 20s, I don't know that I don't think it would have ever gotten this far to be with somebody like that. Like, probably as soon as I heard no job, I would have been gone. But in my 40s, I don't know. I mean, because, you know, there are parts of him that he's a great guy. He seems to be a good guy. You know, the prayer box got me. Like, clearly he loves her. He wants to see her win too. And so it's like he has these parts that are great, and I think she sees that. But then on the other side, he has these parts that are horrible. You know, his attitude is, you know, man babiness or whatever. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's one of the things, I try not to be the person that says never say never. So I don't know what I would do, or if I would stay with somebody, if I were to meet somebody like him at this point in my 40s, would I be like, okay, let's do it. We're going to rock this thing out. Bring him in my house. Let him live here. Give him a room. I don't know. So I'm posing that question to you guys. What my coworker asked me is that, what's too much? Like, at what point would you cut it off? And then even if you want to put an age, like I said, in my 20s, I know for sure I'd have been like, nah, bruh. As soon as he said no job or no car, I'd have been like, I'm good, deuces. But in my 40s, I don't know. I mean, especially in my 40s and having been single as long as I have, you know, people always get on me about that maybe I'm too picky or whatever. So I don't know. So I just want to know what you guys think. So answer that question for me. And then, of course, please leave your thoughts, comments, and tell me what you think about the show. How are you feeling? Are you as drained as me after watching it? Just share it all in the comments with me. And next week is the last episode, so I'm pretty excited to see how it's going to go. I'm pretty sure it's going to like be some ridiculous cliffhanger, and we're going to be upset till the next season. But anyway, next week is the last episode. So I will be back next week. We'll chat. And other than that, just don't forget, leave all of your thoughts and comments in the comment section. And I will see you guys next week.